Ever since we were told that the end of the world is near and that the world would end in 2012, our imaginations went wild with how the apocalypse will put an end to the world. Things such as meteors, zombies, or nuclear war went through our minds. However, some may not know that we humans have encountered multiple apocalypses before, and we have managed to survive it. Today, we count down 4 apocalypses that we survived. Number 4, the Dust Bowl. Lasting 8 years, the Dust Bowl was a severe drought in 1930s, the roughest time of the Great Depression. It affected parts of Texas, Colorado, Nebraska, and Oklahoma, driving thousands from their states to seek better life elsewhere. The combination of over-farming, reliance on a small number of crops, and lack of rainfall led to soil depletion, which turned normally fertile topsoil into fine particle dust. The storms kicked up by prevailing west to east winds of the Great Plains caused dust clouds to bury entire towns in suffocating grit. But lest you think it was confined to the Midwest, on April 14, 1935, the dust storms were so massive that they blotted out the sun in several states, as well as Washington, D.C., and ships in the Atlantic Ocean reported dust falling upon their decks. Ironically, a member of Franklin Roosevelt's cabinet was testifying before Congress on the need for soil conservation when the storm hit. He reportedly pointed out the window and stated, "This gentleman is what I've been talking about." A combination of soil conservation laws and programs, as well as rain finally returning to the Plains states in 1939, brought a close to what must have seemed like the end of days to many. Number 3, the Mongol Conquest. Ruthless and dispassionate, the Mongol hordes descended upon the societies of Asia and Europe like a force of nature. During the 13th century, Genghis Khan forged the many tribes and clans of the Central Asian steppes into an effective and devastating war machine, conquering China, the Middle East, Russia, and parts of Europe. That the Mongols killed many is not in doubt, but the exact number can be hard to pin down. Some regions such as China had excellent census figures, but other places did not. While we may not know exactly how many people perished as the hordes swept through Eurasia, we do know that there was a sudden drop-off in the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. A drop-off that cannot be explained except by the deaths of millions of living, breathing animals. The Mongols, though, eventually lost momentum and fragmented. Their massive empire eventually fractured and dissolved, a mere 100 years after they started. Number 2, the Potato Famine. In the mid-19th century, the reliance of many working poor upon a single crop led to millions of deaths. Most people associate this disaster with Ireland, and they're partly right. Ireland did indeed have the most visible manifestation of the blight. But it was definitely not the only country to suffer. The blight actually struck most of northern and central Europe, including Scotland, where it was known as the Highland Blight or Highland Famine. The blight also affected Belgium and was devastating to the German economies, leading to near total societal collapse as starving workers died in the streets of Europe. The tragedy was made worse by the fact that in many regions, such as in Ireland, there was more than enough food produced, but governments and merchants alike favored the profits made by selling grain and food overseas. Number 1, World War II. The last great world firestorm is carved indelibly in history. Every corner of the globe, with the possible expectation of the Antarctic, saw combat between the Allied and the Axis forces. The result was an utterly devastated Europe and Asia. During the war, 80 million people died in combat, through massacre which also included the Holocaust, and by starvation. By the end of the war, starvation and poverty were commonplace, as people tried to make a living amid the destroyed ruins of once great cities. No running water, no electricity, no food, and barely any government in Europe, China and Japan left innocent civilians perched upon the knife's edge of chaos or death. To illustrate how devastated the world economy and society was, the United States was producing one of every two products made from 1945 to 1946. The destruction was so complete that the normally isolationist United States Congress was motivated to embark upon an ambitious pair of spending projects to jumpstart the world economy and prevent a return to the Great Depression. The Marshall Plan and similar plan launched in Japan and China spent tens of billions of dollars in reconstruction aid. So this is it for today's video. Thank you for watching, and make sure to tune in again tomorrow for another episode.